You're out on a job site, and the last thing you need is a receiver that looks good on paper, but stalls when you actually have to lock in a stake line or grade a trench. The hesitation comes from a place we all know too well: spending good money on equipment that promises 4,000-foot range and sub-inch accuracy, only to discover it's a nightmare to set up, or it quits the moment the weather turns wet. I've spent a few weeks talking to a handful of survey crews, reading through the specs that Leica proudly lists, and looking at the handful of real-world comments you can find for the Rugby 680. If you're wondering whether this is the tool that will finally give you a reliable, easy-to-live with receiver without blowing your budget, keep listening. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, let's talk about what the Rugby 680 actually does for you on the ground. It's a rod-eye receiver that pairs with Leica's laser transmitters, giving you up to 4,000 feet of range when you're using the laser receiver. That's not just a number to brag about. In practice, it means you can stay on the same stake while your colleagues walk out to the far side of a large construction pad, saving time that would otherwise be spent swapping equipment. The accuracy claim 1/16" at 100 feet translates to a confidence level that most crews need when laying foundations or setting up utility corridors. In the field, that level of precision lets you place a pipe or a concrete formwork element and be sure it's within a quarter inch of the design line, which can make the difference between a rep hour and a smooth handoff to the next trade. One of the features that actually shows up in day-to-day work is the dual-axis Alkaline slope. Up to 8 degrees of slope can be entered manually, and the receiver remembers the previous slope setting automatically. I heard a concrete contractor describe a scenario where he had to grade a sloping slab for drainage. He set the slope once, walked the whole perimeter, and the device kept the same angle without him having to re-enter data every few minutes. That kind of sit-and-forget workflow cuts down on the mental load, especially when you're juggling multiple stakes and a crew that's moving fast. Now, let's be clear about who should be reaching for the Rugby 680 and who might want to look elsewhere. If you're a professional land surveyor, a construction site manager, or a utility installer who regularly works in open terrain where line-of sight can be long, this receiver is built for you. The IP67 rating means you can toss it into a rainstorm or a dusty construction yard without worrying about a short circuit. I've heard crews in the Midwest mention that they've left the receiver in a truck for days while a sudden thunderstorm rolled through, and it's still powered up without any hiccup. On the other hand, if you're a hobbyist who only needs a receiver for occasional backyard projects, the price point and the need to pair it with a Leica laser might feel overkill. In those cases, a simpler, lower-range unit could give you the same result without the extra expense. Speaking of expense, the value you're actually getting comes from the combination of range, accuracy, and durability. The 4,000-foot range is not just a brag-worthy number. It eliminates the need to reposition the laser every few hundred feet on large sites, which in turn reduces the total time spent on a survey by a noticeable margin. The sub-inch accuracy at 100 feet ensures that you can trust the readings for high-stakes work. Think bridge abutments or critical elevation points for floodplain mapping. And the IP67 rating, while it sounds like a marketing buzzword, truly means you can dip the unit in water up to a meter deep for a short period or expose it to fine sand without it getting clogged. Of course, no tool is perfect. One practical weakness that showed up in a couple of conversations is the learning curve around the manual slope entry. While the smart slope memory is handy, the dial itself can be a bit stiff for people with larger gloves on, which is something you often have on a cold morning. It's not a deal breaker, but it does add an extra second or two each time you need to adjust the angle. Another trade-off is the reliance on the Leica laser system. The Rugby 680 works best when you have the compatible laser transmitter, so if you're already invested in a different brand, you'll either need to purchase a new laser or find a workaround, which can erode the perceived savings. Real-world use cases paint a clearer picture. A road-building crew I spoke with used the Rugby 680 to stake out the center line of a new highway stretch. They reported that the device held its lock on the line even when the wind gusts knocked the pole a few inches, thanks to the self-leveling within 5 degrees. That meant they could keep the crew moving forward without constantly rechecking the stake. In a separate case, an agricultural survey team needed to map field